My name is Mary Njuguna, and I've had the privilege of working closely with our cooperatives through the implementation of the Solar Drive initiative. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through our deployment journey, the technologies we introduced, and most importantly, the impact we observed across the dairy and fish value chains. In many rural and informal markets, access to cold chain is still limited, particularly for smallholder farmers and informal traders. Power is unreliable, and conventional cold chain solutions are not only costly, but poorly suited to mobile and off-grid settings. The results of these are high rates of spoilage, income instability, and significant time pressures on those working at the base of the food system. With Solar Drive, we set out to change that. We introduced solar-powered mobile cold chain units delivered under cooling as a service model that prioritized portability, affordability, and simplicity, as well as off-grid performance for energy-poor areas. But technology alone was not enough, so we paired our technology with training, strong cooperative partnerships, and continuous support from our team in the field. And our goal was not just to deploy equipment, but to restore time, income, and dignity to rural entrepreneurs. So this brings me to our theory of change. We began with strong community-centered inputs, solar-powered cooling systems, capacity building, and collaboration with trusted cooperatives. These inputs enabled us to have localized activities such as deploying mobile units, onboarding users through practical trainings, and establishing digital monitoring systems. From this, we achieved key outputs, which were consistent cooling access for smallholder users, visibility into usage and temperature through live dashboards, and improved readiness for markets that demand quality, consistency. And over time, these outputs contributed to deeper outcomes, such as reduced post-harvest losses, more predictable income streams, and greater urgency, particularly for the women in the markets and the youth users. Solar Drive wasn't just about building food systems but it was also about being resilient, equitable, and also inclusive. So how did we implement this? So we first identified the gaps. We mapped cold chain challenges in rural dairy and fishing trade zones. We engaged cooperatives and women groups and the youth to understand the most pressing barriers, which was spoilage, cost, and access. And then we partnered with the cooperatives to deploy ice dispensers, both as stationary units at the aggregation hubs and mobile three-wheeler versions for the first and last mile access. We then introduced nomad cans for insulated milk transport and EcoServe bags for fish traders on the move. All this equipment was accompanied by hands-on user training, covering the operation and the cleaning. And then we also installed IoT-enabled tracking on all the dispensers just to get real-time visibility onto the temperatures, usage patterns, and system uptime, and also to have predictive maintenance. We combined both the digital performance of the data with qualitative interviews, allowing us to refine deployment strategy and improve support. And we also invested in local ownership and internal strength. We trained individuals who will serve as asset managers and also developed easy-to-follow training guides and built internal capacity across our own team to manage deployments and respond to user needs, and also continuously learn from the dashboard data. To address cold chain gaps in informal markets, our technology had to meet 3 criteria. It had to be mobile, it had to be simple, and it had to be reliable off-grid. So our stack reflects that. We have the ice water dispensers. We have a mobile one that is for first and last mile cold chain coverage. We have a stationary one that is installed at the local hubs for walk-in cold access. Then we have nomad cans with thermocore that are portable, glycol-based, and ideal for milk transport. We have EcoServe bags that have very thick insulation and reinforced lining that are ideal for fish traders. We also have a Maziwa Plus light kit that is designed for off-grid dairy collection and transport in hilly and inaccessible areas and offers cooling on the go. And then we have a digital tracking tool for milk collection, volumes, quality, and farmer payments. So far, we have achieved a lot from Solar Thrive. Users have reported higher daily income, fisher traders have reduced post-harvest losses, and cooling has become more consistent, and the trust in our solutions has grown. We've reached several smallholder farmers with an uptime of near 100%, fully powered by solar. One woman actually shared that right now she's able to sell at better prices because she can store for longer and also protect her income. This is just the impact snapshot. Like I said, we have had reduction in post-harvest losses, we have installed, and users are giving us a good report on their income. And Solar Thrive is more than just a cold solution. It's a model of inclusive technology delivery, and one that is rooted in the realities of the users, and one that is now ready to scale. To take you deeper on the outcomes, I'll welcome Emma Stella.
Yes, thank you, Mary, for that deep dive on what we learned and what was the background of this particular project that has now already in use at commercial level with different stakeholders. And now I'm very happy to take you through on what we learned very deeply from this. And while Leo and also John, and I'm sure other stakeholders in the cold chain subsector and even in energy subsector as well, have been able to see some of the learnings that we have and now that we found out. But also interestingly, we realized some of the very key things. Because even if there's existing technologies, the traditional cooling technology, as we like to call them, what matters the most, and especially in emerging markets like the East African area, in Kenya as well, is how it's able to relate with the people. You can build resilient business models around it, business models that allow for sustainability, that are not dependent on whether government support heavily or even the donor support. One thing that we learned as we were deploying in both the dairy and the fish supply chain, and especially with our modular parts, is that trust is what drives technology. Because already, as we are aware, a lot of great technologies are in place for the different segments of producers across the different value chains. But one thing that is clear sometimes, there's deployment and hardly there's full adoption and use in a way that is able to transform livelihoods. But however, with the small women groups, with the beach management units, with heads of cooperatives, and even working with the processors, it allows us to start from the top, yes, or the key decision makers. But what was very critical for us was working at collection centers, the different collection points that we were able to form jointly with the cooperative, to even engage at the different points that also included on the fish on the lake, especially with our collapsible storage bag for the fish, which we call the EcoServe, and also importantly for the nomad cans, to relate not just with the smallholder farmers directly, but also importantly the other key social capacities that support them, especially the transporters, especially the regulators and quality control, plant managers as well, and also the local leadership that was very key, just to show how welcome these technologies were into these communities. One thing that is becoming extremely non-negotiable, and especially with the productivity of our farmers, is the need for portability, and that's why we have the small capacities that are there. And I will run on through and look at the different challenges that we faced through this. Obviously, there was great gaps on the digital literacy, because we brought in an element of dashboards to allow for traceability, to allow for visual support, to allow for offline and offsite support that where we train trainers. Also, we had a few issues with especially the young cooperatives in the fish supply chain, having extremely low uptake with skepticism of these new technologies. They work, for example, with the solar ice makers that sometimes not have proper support with them. And now they were skeptical on when and how to use the ice water dispensers and ice water packs from the Solar Thrive dispenser into the ladder packs that were used into the EcoServe bags. And this what we did is that we built champions within the community to support in leading, in adoption, in support, in leading, in training. And also importantly, we even tailored some of our training material to local languages to just provide comfort in realizing that the different complexities of the technology can be broken down into easy, simple way, and the users understand that the technology is acceptable, it is not scary, and it can fit very well into their daily lives without major disruption. There are also irregular income cycles where there was for some farmers, and especially now focusing with the smallholder and the collection and the aggregated units, there was difficulty in, especially in irregular income cycles. This is driven by the seasonality in productivity. Obviously, for example, with the fish, the different cycles, the warm and the hot season. Same applies for the dairy as well, where productivity was low or high, or sometimes when the productivity of the milk was not as much, then the temperatures were really high. So there was a difference between production of the produce, like the milk, and the temperature variation, which allowed us now to have a bit of difficulties in collecting fixed payments. And from there, we were very fast to shift to pay-per-use, which allows for flexible pricing that alongside with the cooperatives, with the different heads, and including even at the processor level, that we could have a shifting pricing model that would go with a particular season, ensure sustainability of the project, and continued use of the technology. As well, also, there were delays in usage sometimes, especially when there were issues with mismanagement, with the management of this particular cooperative, as John described, and I think Leo also captured that as well. So bringing issues of mismanagement of these particular assets, the ice water dispensers, and what we did that we made them own this by making them custodians of the poor technology. Of the technology as well. So on the feedback loop, we were very keen on support, and we found ways of having the same local champions to be key points of contacts, to have WhatsApp support lines as well, and even monthly check-ins from our office, just to make sure the dashboard, what the dashboard is transmitting is the experience on the ground. Finally, some of our female technicians, they had a bit of a pushback from especially some members of the management, which led us now to adjust the criteria of having female trainers, of having both the female and the male trainers. So I'll move on and discuss the sustainability of this particular technology. So here we have the ice water dispenser being owned and run by Savanna Circuit alongside the cooperative as a partner. And the ice water dispenser and ice water will be dispensed as at -30 and -20 degrees, where the users who are the dairy farmers, the fish farmers, will be able to pay for the use of ice water based on their usage. Also on the side of the dairy, we deploy the Nomad cans, and which we still continue to deploy, where most times, and even working with asset financiers, we are now making sure that the Nomad cans can be affordable and also be a one-time purchase that are owned by the users. Sometimes they used to milk into the Nomad cans, store milk, and cool the same milk into the small portable cans, and they can be further integrated into the means of transportation that is mostly local, like the three-wheelers, and we've brought in the electric three-wheelers and also electric motorbikes to do that. The same applied for the fish, where we have now continued to deploy well-insulated bags with bags that allow for cooling, which essentially they are replacing the use of the ice shavings or the ice blocks by using plugs or a bladder that has our ice water at -30 degrees that allows for shared use and prolonged product usage. So you can see on the flow of value, it gives a very sustaining logic that is community-centered, that is innovation-centered, and with a very clear feedback loop, where from individual ownership, from usage-based payments and management at the local level, including the technicians supporting the innovations, and importantly is where we have maintained asset for growth, which means this particular ice water dispensers continue to be a revenue stream for Savanna Circuit on the various incentives, and they continue through the data we receive and the income points we receive. We continue to inform our scale-up strategy, and therefore we have a sustainable revenue model. So as previously mentioned, we've seen great change in the sense where in the sense where the ice water dispensers, they can be multi-use because they are shared cooling points. They can be used for dairy, they can be used for fish. And here we see that it enables for informal trade to be technology supported without major disruption. It allows for all the members of the community, and including women who are majorly labor providers, to even become micro entrepreneurs who are now even supplying some of these particular technologies. And also lastly, the IoT dashboards were very, very key to show real-time support, to show usage, and in turn support with the right training and with the right incentives to make sure that the technology is continually used and the value of the cold chain is being reinforced time and time again. So in this particular performance-based model, we continue to see that with decentralized cooling that is shared, that is cheaper without major disruption, is sustainable, and is able to bring the required or expected changes within the communities in both economic and social changes with them. So now I'd like to move on to the next slide, where I'll be able to invite our CEO, Prof, to be able to walk us deeper into the broader discussion from our